Hey guys, it's Matt with BleepinJeep. Today I want to take some viewer questions, and then at the end of the video I want to do an update on the shop floor. If you're here for a how-to, you better click away now because we're just going to be talking in this video. So it's fall, my favorite time of year. I love the fall time, but it does mean winter is coming, which I don't like winter so much. But the other day I asked for some questions on the scorpion crawler or anything else, and I got a lot of them. I actually did the video before the Dixie run, and then after the Dixie run I had a lot more information about how the scorpion wheeled. So I went ahead and am redoing this video right now. Hopefully I'll be able to give some more insight. So first things first, and then we'll move on to the viewer questions from Facebook. I've got a lot of questions about what's next after the scorpion crawler. The first thing I want to do is just to take a break and take some time to wheel. I don't think you'll notice that I'm taking a break because I've got some videos that I've already done, like the pull apart videos that'll be coming out still. And I'm just going to do videos every week still, but at least I don't have a project. The projects are what really stresses me out because there's always a deadline, or there's always something that it feels like you need to be doing. Now that the scorpion crawler project is over, I don't have that pressure, so there's a lot of weight lifted off my shoulders. So I want to take some time to wheel. I want to take some more time and spend with my family, and I do need to have surgery, so I'll have some downtime after that, probably about 6 weeks. But if I have to, I'll make videos from my bed. The next project, I've gotten a lot of questions about what's next. And we'll go over that here in a minute, but I always said I wanted to do a Willys hot rod, or like a Willys rat rod, like a maybe a 47 Willys, and I think eventually I'll get to that. Now that I'm done with this and the stress is off, like I said, I want to take a break. And I also want to bring on new partners. I know there's a lot of JK guys out there, and I don't have a JK. I don't really have that much interest in a JK, but hopefully we'll find a partner with a JK and partners with all other types of vehicles as well. So if you guys are interested, if you know of anybody, if your buddies are willing to make videos, take the time out of their day to make videos and share with the Jeep community everything that they know, then let me know and we'll bring them onto the channel. Alright, so let's move on to the viewer questions. Okay, so JD Gons and Aaron Ward ask, can your next build be a budget XJ or a junkyard build? In fact, I was thinking about this for a long time now, and I realized that some of you guys are on a smaller budget. But I was thinking about doing like a super budget build, maybe with a cap of $1,000. So my thought was to maybe spend $500 on a Cherokee, $500 on parts, and see what I could make with it, and then take it out and wheel it next to the Scorpion, see how far I could get before it just completely breaks. I think that would be a pretty cool video, and if it tagged along with all the other Jeeps in the club, that would be something special, wouldn't it? But I think that would be neat to have a really low budget, maybe a $500 or $1,000, and I think I'll call that cheap Jeep. I don't know when I'll start that, but maybe within the next year or so. That would be a fun project to do. Joseph Rosenkraus asks, does anybody know what Matt does for a job? Well, this is what I do for a job. I make videos. I also sell t-shirts, and pretty much that's it. It's a lot more involved than you might think. I spend half the day in the office, packaging shirts and shipping them off. I also edit videos and send emails and take care of social media, that kind of thing. And then usually about 1 o'clock or so I come out here and do some work in the shop. So that's it. I make videos for you guys. The way I get paid for that, a lot of people have asked about that too. Those videos, those advertisements that you have to watch before the video, if you watch 30 seconds or more of that, then I get paid a few cents. It's not much, but when you have thousands of people or millions of people watching, it adds up over time. So yeah, that's what I do. I used to be a photographer, yeah, like you said, and I stopped doing that in the beginning of 2015 and have been doing YouTube ever since. Steve Williamson asks, how does it compare to your old crawler? And James Matthews asks if there's anything I would do different, talking about the Scorpion crawler. Comparing to the old crawler, it is awesome. It just crawls, and you know, I thought my old crawler was something special, and it was, but this thing is far more capable. I think the approach angle really helps on the front and rear, so I'm not hitting the rocks all the time when I come up to a ledge or something like that. The bigger tires for sure help, so I'm not dragging my axles all over the place. And it's just super flexy. I'm still figuring out the shocks, but other than it leaning a little bit, everything worked great this last weekend at the Dixie run. If you haven't watched that video, go back and watch the Dixie run video that I posted a week or two ago, and you'll get to see some of it wheeling there. And if there's anything I would do different, I think the main thing that I would have liked to have changed is the paint. I know it's not, it doesn't really have anything to do with the Jeep, but the little paint chip that I picked was like that big, and I thought, well, that looks good, but when you get it on a big surface, it was a lot darker than I thought. I was actually going for the bass boat, that bright green color, and a lot of people can't even tell it's painted until they get within a couple feet, but otherwise it just looks black. Other than that, I'm trying to think if there's anything I would have done different. I probably would have just went with the Dana 60 and a 14 bolt rear, because not that I think I need it, but because every time somebody looks under it and they say, oh, 44, what the hell are you doing? It's just annoying having to explain myself and to try to reason with them why. It would have just been a lot easier for them to look under there and go, oh, Dana 60, thumbs up. But so far, so good. Everything's held up, and it's done a great job. I can't think of anything else that I would have done different, honestly, because I love it so far. Sean Wells asks, what is the most memorable part of the Scorpion build? I think, it's sad, but the transmission falling on my face was probably the most memorable part. And it's funny now to watch that video and to think and to look back on it, but it was a very scary moment at the time. I could have been seriously hurt. Other than that, it fell off the jack stands probably 3 times, one of which it pivoted forward on the jack stands and hit the roof. I've got a video and some pictures of that, but those are probably the most memorable moments of the Scorpion crawler build. Nick Risley asks, any issues you've discovered on your shakedown ride? Well, that first video that you saw of the first shakedown ride, I said that the aux locker got hit, but actually it didn't. I just didn't have it adjusted properly, so it never was adjusted for that first ride, and I took it out and put that thing in there, and it fixed it until I got back, and I realized that I just needed to adjust the cable a little more, do some fine-tuning. So now the aux locker is working great. The issues other than that, the only thing is the gearing is different. It's a lot different than my other crawler. So like if you see me crawl that wall on the on the Facebook video, there's this like vertical wall in the jungle, and I had my foot down to the floor, right? And the wheels were just, you can watch the tires and you can just see them turning really slow. And so it looks like I'm just crawling it, but actually I had my foot to the floor, but the gearing is so low that that's the fastest it would go. So the only issue, it's not an issue, but I just really need to figure out if I can maybe hit it in 4 high next time to get more wheel speed. I like the gearing and how it crawls, but there's sometimes where you just need more wheel speed. So I kind of have to figure that out. Other than that, there is nothing that I found. Other than, well, there's one thing. The exhaust is very loud. So I have to figure that out because I've got a muffler on there now, but whenever it's just idling or whenever you're giving it gas, pretty much all the time, there's like this reverberation inside the cab and it just wants to reverberate your eardrums out. So much so that I can't even hear my music unless it's cranked all the way up. So I'm going to try to figure that out eventually. Okay, moving on. Josh Sharp. Was the burrito cooker a success? Yes, it was. The only thing I found out with the burrito cooker, it's only about 200 degrees, so you have to put your burritos in or whatever you're cooking probably at least an hour or maybe more in advance. So like if you're leaving on a ride at 10 a.m., put your stuff in there, and by lunchtime, it'll be nice and hot. All right, Timmy Davis, can I drive it? No. Dylan Snyder, could you post some pics, vids of it flexed out? I actually have done that, so you need to be on the Instagram account. So it's the Instagram is The Real BleepinJeep, one word, The Real BleepinJeep, and I've got some pictures and some video on there. I've also got pictures and video on Facebook, although it's hard to go back and find those because Facebook doesn't make that easy. But yeah, I've got pictures and videos of it all over the place. And like I said, if you haven't seen the Dixie Run video, go check that out. And there was one before that where I just did like a short 3-minute video of it wheeling. Michael Anderson asks if I'll put a diesel in it. No, I don't really understand what everybody's... I get a lot of questions about putting diesels in things. And diesels are great for pulling power in a big truck, but I don't really understand why you would want a diesel in a rock crawler. I've never really... There's a lot of rock crawlers that I've seen, and I've never seen one with a diesel. There's this... I've never even wheeled a diesel, or I've never driven a diesel. Driven a diesel. But I always hear people talk about lag, like engine lag. So when you press the gas pedal, it takes a minute for it to finally get some power. And I would hate to be wheeling and, coming off of a ledge or something and you floor it and the power doesn't show up until 2 seconds later. That would be a bad idea. So no diesels in my future. Sergio Hernandez, I still want to see the engine bay. Well, let me show you here in a sec. But let me get to these few more questions first. The rear steer. I get a lot of questions about people wanting me to do rear steer. If you watch the Dixie Run video again, you'll see a guy with rear steer. And my opinion is that rear steer only gets in the way. People are trying to do this and they got their hand here, their feet here, and they're doing rear steer. And every time it seems like the rear steer just messes them up. You know, if you're slow crawling, just like inching around, yeah, rear steer would help. But on these rock bouncers that have rear steer, it seems like every time they use it, they end up turned around backwards in the trail. So I don't have any desire to do rear steer. More horsepower, once again, I don't have any desire to do more horsepower. This is a crawler, it's not a rock bouncer, it's not a racing machine, and it's all about gear ratio. If you have the right gear ratio, you can climb anything. And tire pressure. So a lot of people think that we're always running 30 pounds. And I get this comment on every video. It's not your guys' fault. It does look like we're running high pressures. But take a look at these tires. Alright, so this is a 39.5-inch Super Swamper, and take a look at it and just guess in your head what tire pressure is in there right now. No, it's not 30 pounds. There's 6 pounds in this tire right now. So a lot of people look at this and they say, oh man, you need to air down, you need to air down. I've got 6 pounds in here, I can't air down anymore. I've got bead locks on the outside, but if I go less than 6 pounds, the bead on the inside is going to break free, and it's happened already. So 6 pounds is my minimum, and once you get into a big tire size like a 40-inch tire, 43, 44-inch tire, you could run 0 pounds in these and you wouldn't even know that they're flat. I mean 1 pound and it's still going to look just like this. The reason is there's a lot more rubber on these tires and they're just stiffer. They're just stiffer tires. So yes, we do air down, and I get that a lot. It's kind of a pet peeve of mine, but yeah, we're doing it right. Okay, there's nothing really fancy under here, but this is by request from Sergio. So, that is the engine bay. Let me see if I can get a better shot of this here. That's it. It's just a stock straight 6, and nothing super fancy under there other than that PSC reservoir right there, PSC pump for the full hydro. I just have a little air intake thing just sitting right on top of the intake manifold. I got a little breather right there for the crankcase, and my that little piece right there is the overflow for the antifreeze, and these are the hood pins and the radiator supports right there. And I got my O-rise coming up with a bar going across the top of the engine there just to support them. And I do get that question a lot. What happens when I need to replace the motor or pull the motor? Well, I'll just whack. Actually, I'll probably whack it right there. Whack it out of there, and that's it. Okay, let's do 2 more bonus questions and I'll show you some carnage that I got over there. So Kenny Farley says, what's the transfer case and gear ratio? So the gear ratio in the axles is a 513, and the transfer case is a Terraflex 4:1. So yeah, 4:1 plus the 513s makes it a pretty good crawl ratio. Brandon Cameron asks if I'll sell it. No. My intention, my goal on building this was to build my own crawler once again. If I sold it, I would be very sad because I wouldn't have anything to wheel. People have asked me if I will build another one to sell. No, I would have to charge $1 million, really. $1 million to build one of these things again. That's how much stress and time it took me. So no, I don't have any plans to sell it, and I'm not going to build any more like it. So let me show you some carnage that I got at Dixie Rent the other day. So right there I got into a tree stump and I damaged the paint, so that kind of sucked. And then I didn't even realize I did this, but my buddy was sitting here and somehow I slammed into a rock on its side. I guess, I don't really know. I was trying to climb this ledge and somehow I got sideways maybe and slammed onto the rock, onto its side. But it bent this tube pretty good. You can see it bent right there and dented the tube, but I guess I'll just leave it until it gets really bad, and then I'll just cut it out and weld it back in. So other than that, everything went really smooth on the Dixie run. I never got stuck. The only time I had to use my winch was whenever I was pulling on somebody else. No, wait, I did have to winch for something. Oh, I got crooked on that wall. I did the wall 3 times, and the one time I got crooked, and I had to have somebody else winch me out of it so that I didn't roll over, because I was about to flip over backwards. But other than that, the only problem that I found was the ORIs still need to be tuned because it's leaning quite a bit. And as you can see right now, I let some air out of the driver's side, and it leaned over to the driver's side, but it really doesn't have enough pressure in the bottoms, I guess, because when you put different weights on different sides, it just leans over. So I think the fix for that is more pressure in the bottoms. So I'll be doing that before the next ride. Come outside and I'm going to show you this. I was trying real hard to sell my Dodge and I couldn't sell it, but I found somebody wanted to trade me this. So this is a 1988 Toyota. It's got a V6 swapped into it from a 97 4Runner. It's a stick shift, and I don't know what I'm going to do with it. I don't really plan to keep it. I just traded it hoping that maybe I could sell this one more easily, but I think in the meantime I'll just play around with it and have some fun with it. I do still have my blue Dodge. That's been my most reliable vehicle ever, I think, and I paid like $1,200 for that 6 years ago. But the blue Dodge was just getting tired of pulling my Jeep around, so I finally upgraded my tow rig. Believe it or not, this is the first nice car that I've ever had. And like I said in the Dixie Run video, that's the first vehicle I've ever had with air condition. And it's not new. It's 2009, but it's the newest, nicest car I've ever had. And I got some flack on it. I think on Instagram somebody was saying that I got way too much YouTube money on my hands, but buddy, I've been saving for years to buy a nice truck. It's not like I just went out and got this from the dealership or something. I don't have a lot of money, but it was time for me to get something nicer. So what videos are next? Now that I got done with the Scorpion Crawler project, like I said, I want to take a break from projects, but there's a lot that I learned while I was doing the Scorpion Crawler. If you haven't followed all of my videos, you'll know that I'm not a mechanic. I just was a photographer, like I said, and I made one video and people liked it, and I started making more. So I think there's a lot that you can learn, though, from somebody who's not a pro in the field, because I'm having to learn along with you guys. So when I was making the Scorpion Crawler, there was a lot of stuff new to me that I learned, and I'd like to share that with you guys. So I'd like to do a few videos on that, maybe titled What I Learned on the Scorpion Crawler. And I'd like to get back to the basics of what made this channel great from the beginning, and that was just how-tos and diagnostics and just stuff like that, some everyday stuff. But I really enjoy the fabricating aspect of it. I don't like engines or transmissions, but I really do enjoy welding and fabricating. And if there's any videos that you guys would like to see on that stuff, let me know down in the comments below. Let me know what other kind of videos you'd like to see. You know, I'm not going to do any engine swaps or anything like that. But if there's something you'd like to see, leave it down in the comments below and I'll see if I can make a video on it. I'm going to have some time on my hands now that I don't have anything to work on. So I look forward to getting back into that, and I look forward to trying to make the videos funny again. I know I said this before, but whenever it gets down to a time crunch, you start losing your comedy. So I'd like to get back into making some funny stuff again too. So thank you for watching. Thank you for being a subscriber. I owe it all to you guys, and we'll see you in the next video. People always want to know how I get in this thing. Let me show you. Right there, right there, right there. Up, over, in. Alright, so after I got the shop insulated, thank you for that by the way, I painted the floor with I think it was a Rust-Oleum epoxy garage floor shop paint. Or not paint, but epoxy. And over the years, I've gotten questions on how it held up. I have a video of me putting that down. I'll leave the link down below if you haven't seen it. So people want to know how it held up, and it held up fairly well. Let me show you. So I say it's held up for the most part because look at these two spots. There's one right here and there's one right there. I'll let you take a guess what caused that. I'll give you 5 seconds. Let me show you. It's Jack's fault. So, the thing that this floor does not like is the jack. So the reason that there's two spots, one right here and one right there, is because that's where I bring all my cars in, park them, and that's where the jack sits under the axle. Right in the middle on either one. And what happens is, it's not really the jack jacking it up, it's when the jack jacks up and starts rolling. So as you're jacking up, that arm is coming up like this and the jack is going to roll forward to center itself. And whenever there's a lot of pressure on these wheels and they start rolling forward, it pushes the paint up as it goes. So if you're going to be jacking up on your floor, on your epoxy floor, you know, and you don't want to ruin it, you need to put something down, like a piece of wood would have done it, or a sheet of metal, just to keep that from putting so much rolling weight on that paint. So other than those two large spots, there's only a few other places, like right here and here. And let me tell you, the other thing that really gets this paint is really harsh chemicals. Brake fluid is the worst chemical. So you don't want to be spilling brake fluid on your epoxy floor. Maybe other harsh chemicals like brake cleaner and gasoline, stuff like that. So the other thing is you don't want to be dragging big heavy objects, like my welding table over there is really heavy. It got dragged across the floor a couple times. And the other thing that really gets this paint is if you don't do the prep work. So there's an acid wash that you have to put down beforehand, and if you don't do that, it won't even stick at all. So you have to make sure that when you put that acid wash down, you really get it prepped good. If there's any oil underneath, you can really tell, because that's where the paint will come up first. This spot right here, you can see it kind of looks dirty, And that is from the plasma torch throwing sparks down at it. I was really surprised at how well it handled those sparks from the plasma torch, because I used the plasma torch right here for a whole year and a half, and this is all I have. But it really held up well to that. It just changes the color a little bit if you get really close. So this was a spot where I was torching probably 4 inches from the concrete surface itself. Over here, I'm not real sure what that is. It looks like I spilled some grease or something on there. It could be brake fluid, but it looks like it's just kind of something that I could scratch off of there if I wanted to. I was looking for brake fluid spots, but I don't really see any of that. And I did spill some brake fluid over in this area, and I don't see any of the paint missing, so maybe it's not that bad, but it's certainly not good for it. Now, one of the great things about this epoxy paint in the first place was that any spills like oil cleaned up much easier than off of just the concrete surface itself. Over time, that kind of wears down a little bit, but it still, I think, is easier than just a bare concrete surface to clean stuff off of. Alright guys, that's the floor. That's the update. Until next time, we'll see you later.